Hey guys, it's Jenna. Welcome back to my channel today. In today's video, I'm actually going to go over a very fun video topic. I actually saw my friend Morgan Turner do this video and I thought it was genius. If you know me, you know that I have three favorite brands of all time in the high-end and luxury category: Charlotte Tilbury, Pat McGrath, and Natasha Denona. Not everything works out for me. There's quite a few products that do, but there are some real duds in these lines. And because this line is so luxurious, so pricey, I figured I would let you guys know the products to avoid. So let's get started. Let's talk about the first brand, which is Charlotte Tilbury. Now, Charlotte Tilbury is probably, out of the three, my most favorite brand because nearly everything works out for me. She just has a way of creating makeup that is very glowy. It just emphasizes your own features and makes you just feel really beautiful. But these products, they missed the mark. They were quite terrible, unfortunately. So I figured I would let you guys know what products to avoid from Charlotte's line. The first product is the Tinted Love Lip and Cheek Tints from the Instant Look of Love collection. There are quite a few shades in this, and it was actually a very promising product, but unfortunately, there's so many things I don't like about this. Unfortunately, the pigment is incredibly light. It's very sheer, but it seems to sheer out to almost nothing. So it's really hard to blend, but once you do, it's like gone. Like, the longevity on the skin is basically zero, and it is quite tacky. So it's one that when you do apply to the cheek, everything seems to stick over top of it, and not in a good way. That's like the biggest problem with this product that I had, because as soon as I went out into the world and did my errands for the day, my long hair would blow and just like get stuck in my cheeks. Was got to be like the worst thing ever. So that was just a big pet peeve. And because of the fact that they just blend very poorly, the longevity is really, really poor. It's also meant to be a lip product too, but the lip product also doesn't seem to last a long time on the lips either. I was kind of expecting a stain type of situation, but no. This is a product to avoid from Charlotte Tilbury. Let's talk about the next product that, in my opinion, has got to be quite gimmicky for her brand. It's weird. It's not a product that I think fits with all of the other SKUs that she's released. And then you have this ultra tacky product. This is the Glowgasm Lip Balm. This to me is just, it's one of those pH changing formulas, and they're quite gimmicky to me, and maybe that's an unpopular opinion, which it very could be. To me, it was just kind of a weird product that I thought would belong in Claire's compared to Charlotte Tilbury's line. Also reminds me of the Winky Luxe lip balms, which also I didn't really get on with. So this is the same kind of thing. If you have any type of product like this, don't expect it to change any other different shade on your lip. It really just depends on how the product interacts with your lip, because it's one of those pH changing ones. So you really will get the exact same shade every time, no matter what product you're using. Oh, it just looked so tacky. Like, in theory, it's like shimmery and gorgeous, but it's just like, oh, no. And I also didn't like the light purple packaging of this. It also just seemed to cheapen the product for me. The only thing I liked about this was that it had vitamin E in it, which offered a really nice moisturizing balm-like texture, but otherwise it was not worth the price point and not worth recommending to you guys. This is the second big dud, one of the worst products from Charlotte Tilbury. The last worst product from Charlotte Tilbury is unfortunately her Miracle Eye Duo. This is an interesting product, and in theory, I really wish would have worked out for me. The first product has a nice moisturizing brightener, and the second side of the product is a concealer for dark circles. Now, this sort of reminded me of the Touche Éclat from YSL, a little bit of the same idea. It had a clicky sort of application, and this was one that was just poorly executed. It was very hard to get the product out of the container. It was one that was very hard to distribute. So if you clicked too much, it would just like explode in your face. If you didn't click enough, it seemed like it was barely coming out. And then when it came down to actually working with the products, I just felt like the brightener did okay, but the concealer just wasn't my favorite. It seemed to crease up really, really easily and dry out the under eye area, and that's not something that I want to look so crepey. It's just something I really want to keep moisturized and plumped out, so certainly not the concealer formulation I was hoping for. This is also not a product I would recommend, and one of the worst ones from Charlotte Tilbury, so avoid this one at all costs. The next brand, which is my second favorite brand in this countdown, is Natasha Denona. So let's talk about her next. She has made some interesting products, and there's a few that are probably the worst of her line. So based on the products that I have tested from her line, which has been quite a few, the first product that I think you should absolutely avoid from Natasha Denona is the Mini Lila palette. Now, don't hate me on this one. I know there are a few fans that really love this palette and can make it work, which I think is amazing, but the Mini Lila is nowhere near the Big Lila. The Big Lila is so gorgeous. It's so beautiful. Every single shade is a winner in that palette. This is just like one of my favorite palettes from her from all time. It's definitely one of the earlier releases as well. It's a palette you can create some beautiful looks with. I just don't think you can mess this one up. They're so richly pigmented, very easy to blend out. The Mini Lila, on the other hand, is very, very stiff, very, very hard to blend, and some of them don't even really have that much pigment behind them. So this is a palette that is a mini version, or supposedly a mini companion to the Big Lila palette, and one that I would never recommend to you guys because it was just extremely hard to work with. The next miss is actually a newer release from Natasha Denona, and unfortunately this one did not work out for me at all despite my best efforts. This is the Puff Paint Liquid Serum Blush from Natasha Denona, and unfortunately this had some very similar miss points when it came to this product versus the Tinted Love from Charlotte Tilbury. The only thing that this one was not was that it was not tacky. The longevity of this was very poor, and I think it speaks to the fact that it does have a heavy amount of serum behind it to make it essentially just absorb into the skin and then go away. You're supposed to shake it, and even though you do, it can be an inconsistent, patchy application, and the shades are also just okay to me, and even the swatch will show you. It's just quite an inconsistent, patchy product. The serum, although I understand what she was trying to do with the serum component, it just sort of made this product a big miss because now it just doesn't seem to last on the skin, and it's very hard to blend into the skin to make it look nice and even and a really nice flush on the cheek. I actually think that if you're looking for something like this, the Rare Beauty by Selena Gomez Soft Bliss pinch blushes are actually really, really nice. Way better than this. So this, unfortunately, is the second miss from Natasha Denona. Please don't buy this because I really think that you might be disappointed. Let's talk about the last miss from Natasha Denona, which is the Chroma Top Coats. Oh my word, you guys, this I had such high hopes for, but this is a tub essentially of a pressed pigment kind of glitter top coat situation. You're supposed to be able to add some really nice sparkle, some really nice glitter to your lid, and it's supposed to look really beautiful and effortless. However, these dry very, very fast. So even if you have the lid nice and tight on the container, these tend to get really hard and crumbly really quickly. They do start out with a really nice creamy consistency to them that makes applying really nice, but it just seems to fall short very quickly. So the longevity of the formulation in the tube or in the tub itself is very, very poor. It's a very thin veil of glitter that for my kind of glitter preferences, I really needed to keep building and eventually got to the point where there was so much product on my lid, I just knew that it was too much, and it was sort of making my lids look kind of crepey. If you know what I'm talking about, where you have too many sort of metallic-y or shimmery finishes one over the other, it can tend to look quite textured and just kind of off. So that's what happened to me with these top coats really quickly. They also fall all over the cheek. The fallout is fairly significant for something that is much more of a cream product. So for all of the reasons listed, and there are so many, her shimmer finishes are divine, but not in the top coats. These are a big miss. My last favorite brand in the top 3 faves of all time is McGrath Labs, and I would say that she has some interesting misses in her line as well. The first one being the Liquilust lipsticks. This is her take of the liquid lipstick, and they're quite cakey, quite drying, very uncomfortable to wear. This product somehow found lines in my lips that I didn't even realize were there and emphasized them and brought them forth. I just looked in the mirror, I was like, oh my word, is that really how I look? Like, the confidence level was plummeting into the floor. So unfortunately, the formulation was terrible. emphasized every single imperfection possible. The only strength I would say for these is that they're quite pigmented and very thin. You don't have to worry about putting too much product on your lips, but oh my word, once they settle down, and it doesn't take very long, it's a few minutes until it sets, and it definitely stays put, so that's a strength. The ugliness of your lips stays for way longer than you would like, so it sort of backfires on you. This next product I wouldn't say is a complete miss necessarily, but it's certainly average for what you get price point wise, which is why I consider it something that I wouldn't recommend to you guys. Pat McGrath is a very luxurious price tag, and I expect the packaging and the product underneath to be very much worth that price and that investment. The next product that I think is a miss is the primer. Now, this came out the same time as her foundation, and she released a primer, a foundation, and a loose powder at the same time. The primer, though, oh my goodness, what the heck happened with the packaging on this guy? Because it was so lightweight, plasticky, and just feeling very non-luxurious is probably the best word I could say. It was quite lightweight, and for a Pat product, I was like, what happened here? The label, when it arrived to me, was actually peeling off of the primer itself. So I was like, the label wasn't even pressed properly on this tube. The primer was also average, like I said. So even the product underneath, like underneath all of the mess of the packaging, was average. And I'm not going to recommend a primer to you guys, regardless of the brand name, if it's average and has crap packaging on top of it. So this is a primer that I would definitely say you do not need to purchase from Pat McGrath. Her foundation packaging was amazing, so I opened that thinking that the rest of the trio was going to look super pretty. Unfortunately, somebody seemed to skimp out on the packaging for the primer and the product itself. It's definitely average for the price point. You can definitely avoid this product. The last product that I think you can avoid from Pat McGrath is the loose setting powder. This is not to be mistaken for the under eye powder, which apparently is amazing. I have heard amazing things from you guys. I have not yet tested it personally, but the under eye powder is very different than the loose setting powder. This is a powder that's supposed to keep you mattified, and it's also supposed to be one that is supposed to set makeup without emphasizing any wrinkles, lines, etc. Now, I would say this is a product that unfortunately did not seem to keep everything unified for very long. I don't typically have oil breakthrough because my skin isn't super oily, but towards the summer months, it can get a little bit oily in the hotter weather. And this was something that for some reason my oil would break through. This is not really something I'm used to because my skin isn't overly oily. So I knew that there was something wrong with the powder here that wasn't containing my makeup how it normally would look. The packaging as well, this was part of the launch with the primer and the foundation. This is also very subpar packaging for Pat McGrath, and I know the packaging is not everything when it comes to makeup, but we're talking a heck of a price point with these products, so I would hope that the packaging would be at least decent. Really like light plasticky feeling. I've actually seen drugstore packaging way better than this for a fraction of a price. So something that I also kind of take into consideration. The shade range as a whole also leans more yellow than what I would prefer a setting powder to be. Typically, I like to see more of a neutral kind of shade with these, but going into light medium and medium, it sort of leans quite yellow undertoned, which is something that I really was disappointed in. I also felt the packaging was a little bit faulty too, because it was one that was harder to control the powder every time you picked it up from the container. Just seemed to put quite a bit into the air and cause a lot of waste because so much powder was getting everywhere. So this is unfortunately a mediocre product from Pat McGrath. I wouldn't say it's a total fail per se. There's definitely people that love this product, but I would say that for her line, I wish the packaging would have been a bit better, and I wish the shade range wouldn't have been so yellow and lacking when it came to the mattifying capability of this powder. When it comes to Pat McGrath, Charlotte Tilbury, and Natasha Denona, do you have any products that are terrible from her line that you would recommend I stay away from? Please let me know down below so I can also save my coin, because I love hearing your recommendations of things to stay away from as much as I like hearing the products that you love. Until my next one, guys, take care and stay safe. Bye, guys!